Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Ron's Amazing Stories. We have stories that should thrill you a little and chill you a little.
It's amazing.
What you'll hear are adventures sent in by you guys, classic stories from the pulp mags, and episodes from the golden age of radio. We have special segments like Ghost Stories with Sylvia.
That's amazing.
And Paranormal Expeditions.
I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
So settle in for the next hour and enjoy the show. One more thing. You just might want to prepare yourself to be taken away from today.
Another 5-minute mystery.
This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by the word imagination. Imagination will often carry us to worlds that never were, and without it, we go nowhere. It is the goal of this podcast to promote your imagination. And now for our 5-minute mystery.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Read all about the murder of millionaire Timothy Fuller. Thank you, sir. Timothy Fuller murder unsolved. Read all...
Who shall I say is calling, sir?
Jack Curtis of the Evening Record.
Oh, yes, Mr. Curtis. If you will follow me, sir, Mr. Fuller will see you.
Mr. Fuller?
I'm Leslie Fuller. It was my father who was killed.
According to reports, the case isn't progressing so well.
No, it isn't, Mr. Curtis. Seems to be a complete mystery as to who could have killed my father.
I wonder if it might be possible for me to talk with the other members of the household.
Oh, yes, of course. There's just my sister Barbara, Barton the butler, and myself.
Did you ring, sir?
Oh, yes, Barton. Mr. Curtis would like to talk to you and my sister. Will you go for her? She's in a room.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fuller, were you at home the night your father was killed?
I'm a radio news commentator, Mr. Curtis, and at the time my father was killed, I was on the air.
Oh, I don't believe I've ever heard you on the radio, Mr. Fuller.
It's quite possible that you haven't, Mr. Curtis. My commentaries are broadcast in shortwave, unless you had a shortwave receiver.
Oh, yes, yeah, of course.
Did you want to see me, Leslie?
Oh, yes, Barbara. May I present Mr. Curtis of the Evening Record? He wants to ask you some questions.
How do you do, Mr. Curtis?
Oh, how do you do?
You remain also, Barton.
Yes, sir.
Where were you at the time Mr. Fuller was killed, Barton?
I was in the kitchen, sir. I was helping cook polish the silver. When I heard the shot, I ran into the drawing room and found Mr. Fuller slumped over in his chair.
Shot through the head, wasn't he, Barton?
Yes, sir.
And where were you at the time, Miss Fuller?
Oh, I was here in the library. I was lying on the sofa listening to Leslie on the radio when I heard the shot. I never miss him.
Radio? What radio?
Oh, that old portable over there in the desk.
Oh, I see. Where is the cook, Mr. Fuller?
She left this morning. She was terribly upset, and the police said it would be all right.
I see. Oh, that's a very beautiful picture of you there on the desk, Miss Fuller. Do you have another one like it?
Why, yes, of course, but...
Oh, I don't want it for myself, Miss Fuller. I want it for my paper.
Just what are you driving at, Curtis?
Just that your sister's picture will appear in the paper tomorrow under the headline, Daughter Murders Father.
But that's fantastic. You have no reason in the world to believe that I murdered him.
No, I don't I? Well, you made one statement that convinced me immediately that you were lying.
What was the statement that led Curtis to believe that Barbara was lying? In a moment, we'll let you know, but first...
Okay, my first question is, why in the heck is a newspaper man acting like a detective?
He does seem to be going above and beyond the scope of a reporter. Quite odd, really.
I agree, and I personally would ask him to leave.
Perhaps in the 1940s, a reporter had amenities that we don't fathom in today's world.
Perhaps. Or, once again, the FFM writers are hoping that we are all imbeciles.
I'm afraid that too makes sense.
Now, back to our mystery.
Yes, Miss Fuller, you made one statement that convinced me immediately that you were lying. Your alibi was that at the time the shot was fired, you were lying in here listening to your brother's commentary on the radio. That's impossible, Miss Fuller. Your brother broadcasts on short wave. Short wave is something different, Miss Fuller, and requires a special receiving set. You could hardly expect me to believe that you heard your brother on that old portable radio you have here. It just wouldn't work. Get your hat and coat, Miss Fuller. Where you're going, you'll have a long time to figure out the intricacies of short wave.
Again, I would tell that reporter to pound sand.
Agreed. Going with him downtown or anywhere for that matter seems unwise.
Pretty poor alibi anyway. Listening to the radio, I mean.
True, but I would point out that you can't kill anyone while listening.
That's not a thing.
Oh, really?
What's that you say?
Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today's show is all about continuity and synchronicity.
No, it isn't.
Right. Okay then, the show is all about self-repairing ISO capacitors.
That's just stupid.
Yeah, that does seem pretty lame. How about this? What we really have are some great stories that should thrill you a little and chill you a little.
I can get behind that.
Then let's do it with this special message from Audible. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. They have over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, computer, Kindle. Whatever you have, you can listen to Audible on it. So what am I listening to? 2001, A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke, narrated by Dick Hill. It has been over 50 years since the publication of this classic science fiction novel that changed the way we look at the stars and ourselves. From the savannas of Africa at the dawn of mankind to the rings of Saturn as man ventures to the outer rim of our solar system. 2001, A Space Odyssey is a journey unlike any other. Now, most everyone has seen the movie and how well it holds up to time. But have you ever read the book? I remember the first time I did. It was for an English class in high school themed on science fiction. It was taught by Mr. Mitchell, and he had us read the classics and write our reactions to them. One entire quarter was spent on 2001, with the final being a screening of the movie in 70mm. We then had a Blue Book assignment to write the differences between the novel and the movie. I received a passing grade by making the point the movie was a near-perfect reproduction of the book. But how could I have been right? Well, here's why, in Arthur C. Clarke's own words.
2001 is often said to be based on the Sentinel, but that's a gross oversimplification. The two bear much the same relationship as an acorn and an oak tree. It needed a lot more material to make the movie, and some of it came from another short story, Encounter in the Dawn, and 4 other shorts. But most of it was wholly new, and the result of months of brainstorming with Stanley, followed by fairly lonely, hours in room 1008 of the famous Hotel Chelsea on 23rd Street, which I was happy to revisit only a few months ago. That's where most of the novel was written, and the journal of this often painful process I've recorded in my book, The Lost Worlds of 2001, which gives a lot of the alternative storylines. But why write a novel, you may ask, when we were aiming to make a movie? It's true that novelizations, horrible word, are all too often produced afterwards. But in this case, Stanley had excellent reasons for reversing the process. Because a screenplay has to specify everything in excruciating detail, it's almost as tedious to read as to write. John Fowles put it very well when he said, "Writing a novel is like swimming through the sea. Writing a film script is like thrashing through treacle." Perhaps because Stanley realized that I have a low tolerance for boredom, He suggested that before we embarked on the drudgery of the script, we let our imaginations soar freely by writing a complete novel from which we could later derive the script and, hopefully, a little cash. Well, that's more or less the way it worked out, though towards the end, novel and screenplay were being written simultaneously with feedback in both directions. Thus, I rewrote some sections after seeing the movie Rushes, a rather expensive method of literary creation which few other authors can have enjoyed, though I'm not sure if enjoyed is the right word. To give the flavour of that hectic time, here's some extracts from the journal I must have hastily written in the smaller hours of the morning. May 28, 1964. Suggested to Stanley that they might be machines who regard organic life as a hideous disease. Stanley thinks this is cute. July 11th. Joined Stanley to discuss plot development, but spent almost all the time arguing about Cantor's transfinite groups. That's numbers beyond infinity. I decide that he's a latent mathematical genius. July 12. Now we have everything except the plot. July 26. Stanley's 36th birthday. Went to the village and found a card with the inscription, "How can you have a happy birthday when the whole world may blow up at any minute?" September 28. Dreamed I was a robot being rebuilt. Took 2 chapters to Stanley, who cooked me a fine steak, remarking, "Joe Levine doesn't do this for his writers." December 10. Stanley calls me after screening H.G. Wells's Things to Come and says he'll never see another movie I recommend. December 24. Slowly tinkering with the final pages so I can have them as a Christmas present for Stanley. This last entry on Christmas Eve records my hope that the novel was now essentially complete. In fact, all we had was merely a rough draft of the first 2/3, stopping at the most exciting point because we hadn't the faintest idea what would happen next. But it was enough to let Stanley set up the deal with MGM and Cinerama for what was originally trumpeted as Journey Beyond the Stars.
Now let's talk about the audiobook. It is read for us by Dick Hill. He brings to life the characters and feel of 2001, and he does it with style. Here is a clip from the famous scene where Bowman has a life-or-death moment when trying to re-enter Discovery after Hal has locked him out.
A moment later, all other sounds were submerged by a screaming roar like the voice of an approaching tornado. Bowman could feel the first winds tugging at his body. Within a second, he found it hard to stay on his feet. The atmosphere was rushing out of the ship, geysering into the vacuum of space. Something must have happened to the foolproof safety devices of the airlock. It was supposed to be impossible for both doors to be open at the same time. Well, the impossible had happened. How, in God's name? There was no time to go into that during the 10 or 15 seconds of consciousness that remained to him before pressure dropped to 0. But he suddenly remembered something that one of the ship's designers had once said to him when discussing fail-safe systems. We can design a system that's proof against accident and stupidity, but we can't design one that's proof against deliberate malice. Bowman glanced back only once at Whitehead as he fought his way out of the cubicle. He could not be sure if a flicker of consciousness had passed across the waxen features. Perhaps one eye had twitched slightly, but there was nothing that he could do now for Whitehead or any of the others. He had to save himself. In the steeply curving corridor of the centrifuge, the wind was howling past, carrying with it loose articles of clothing, pieces of paper, items of food from the galley, plates and cups, everything that had not been securely fastened down. Bowman had time for one glimpse of the racing chaos when the main lights flickered and died, and he was surrounded by screaming darkness. But almost instantly, the battery-powered emergency light came on, illuminating the nightmare scene with an eerie blue radiance. Even without it, Bowman could have found his way through these so familiar, yet now horribly transformed, surroundings. Yet the light was a blessing, for it allowed him to avoid the more dangerous of the objects being swept along by the gale. All around him, he could feel the centrifuge shaking and laboring under the wildly varying loads. He was fearful that the bearings might seize. If that happened, the spinning flywheel would tear the ship to pieces. But even that would not matter if he did not reach the nearest emergency shelter in time. Already it was difficult to breathe. Pressure must now be down to 1 or 2 pounds per square inch. The shriek of the hurricane was becoming fainter as it lost its strength, and the thinning air no longer carried the sound so efficiently. Bowman's lungs were laboring as if he were on the top of Everest. Like any properly trained man in good health, he could survive in vacuum for at least a minute, if he had time to prepare for it. But there had been no time. He could only count on the normal 15 seconds of consciousness before his brain was starved and anoxia overcame him. Even then, he could still recover completely after 1 or 2 minutes in vacuum if he was properly recompressed. It took a long time for the body fluids to start boiling in their various well-protected systems. The record time for exposure to vacuum was almost 5 minutes. That had not been an experiment, but an emergency rescue, and though the subject had been partly paralyzed by an air embolism, he had survived. But all this was of no use to Bowman. There was no one aboard Discovery who could recompress him. He had to reach safety in the next few seconds by his own unaided efforts. Fortunately, it was becoming easier to move. The thinning air could no longer claw and tear at him or batter him with flying projectiles. There was the yellow emergency shelter sign around the curve of the corridor. He stumbled toward it, grabbed at the handle, and pulled the door toward him. For one horrible moment, he thought that it was stuck. Then the slightly stiff hinge yielded, and he fell inside, using the weight of his body to close the door behind him. The tiny cubicle was just large enough to hold one man and a spacesuit. Near the ceiling was a small, bright green, high-pressure cylinder labeled O2 Flood. Bowman caught hold of the short lever fastened to the valve and with his last strength pulled it down. The blessed torrent of cool, pure oxygen poured into his lungs. For a long moment he stood gasping, while the pressure in the closet-sized little chamber rose around him. As soon as he could breathe comfortably, he closed the valve. There was only enough gas in the cylinder for 2 such performances. He might need to use it again. With the oxygen blast shut off, it became suddenly silent. Bowman stood in the cubicle, listening intently. The roaring outside the door had also ceased. The ship was empty, all its atmosphere sucked away into space.
Sounds pretty amazing, don't you think? And you can have 2001: A Space Odyssey today. Here's what Audible has set up for us. They are offering a free audiobook and 30 days to give you the opportunity to check out their service. This includes free access to the Audible Plus catalog, which is updated monthly with new titles. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories, and you can get 2001: A Space Odyssey today. Thank you, Audible. And now, it's time for your stories.
These are your stories, sent by you, for you.
Our story for this week comes from returning listener Chad Campbell from Chicago, Illinois. We last heard from him a few months ago in episode number 486, Dead Man's Planet. He told us then that he had other stories to share, and this is a good one. Chad has titled this, The Civil War Ghost of Utica. As I've said before, I've experienced many hauntings in my life. I don't really ever see ghosts. There was this one time with a woman sitting on my couch staring at me, and, well, there's this story. I want to thank Ron for giving me a place to share it. September 2020. I was taking my wife to work as I did almost every night of the week. On the way, we drove through this little country town of North Utica, Illinois. On the way, there is a big hill going down into the town. We had been this way a ton of times, so we knew all the little landmarks, trees, road signs, mailboxes, etc. Right behind the green sign that said we were in Utica, there is a man standing there on the side of the road looking our way. Because this was something out of the ordinary, I quickly looked over and got a good look at him for a brief second as we passed by. At the same time, my wife said, "Oh my God, did you see that?" I asked her what she saw, and she said, "That guy was a Civil War soldier." She said that she saw a detailed face, but I didn't. For starters, he was mostly white and glowing, like my headlights were really lighting him up. But they weren't. I was drawn to his face because what I saw was just a blank, white, glowing area. He had his right leg up like he was resting it on something, and he had his rifle in his hand, holding it to the ground like a cane. Also, he had a kepi hat on. It seemed like he wasn't just white, but actually shades of gray, though glowing. We had plenty of time, so I turned the car around to get another look. When we got back to the sign, he was gone. I dropped my wife off and drove back. I wandered around the area for a while, but I didn't see any signs of a person or ghost having been there. This prompted me to do some research. I wanted to know if any battles took place around the Chicago area. I couldn't find a single one. What I did find was this. Chicago was a stronghold of the abolitionist sentiment and the springboard of Lincoln's presidency. Chicago was blamed in many circles for bringing on the war, but it also prospered. Its population almost doubled as thousands of immigrants found work in the city. It was the second leading war supplier next to New York. There were some army bases in the area. For example, Camp Douglas, located near Chicago, was one of the largest training camps for Union troops, as well as Camp Butler near Springfield. Both served as prisoner of war camps for captive Confederates. And that's it. We purposely drove that way every night after that until she lost her job due to the pandemic, just hoping to see him again. But we never did. I wanted to stop by at the house near where he was and ask them if they'd ever see him. Or maybe they had some costume from the Civil War and they were just hanging around freaking people out. Although I'm not sure how they could have pulled off the glowing faceless thing. I haven't done that yet, and I probably never will. Oh yeah, there's one more thing. There's a very old cemetery in Utica. My father once told me, and he's not known for telling any tales, let alone tall ones. He once drove by there and saw a werewolf. But that is another story, and I might add, a very creepy one. Chad Campbell, Chicago, Illinois. Wow, you do have a good story, Chad. I followed up on your research, and I really don't have anything to add. As far as I can see, other than the training camps and POW camps you mentioned, not much happened in that area during the Civil War. So, I have no idea what you saw. Thank you for sharing. If you have a story that you would like to share, like Chad did, head to the main website at ronsamazingstories.com and click on the Story Submission banner. Leave your story, give it a title, and tell me where you're from. I'll read it if I can. Our featured story comes from the world of Dimension X. What awaits us in space? Surely there are things and phenomenon that will defy all logic. However, sometimes our own ignorance is our worst enemy. In today's story, our heroes face a barrier in space that has yet to be broken. The spaceship Starcloud and its crew attempt to break the galactic barrier in a story called No Contact. It first aired on Dimension X on April 29th, 1950.
Adventures in time and space, told in future tense. Dimension X. Can you predict what will come in 100 years? Or in 10? Or in the next minute? Can you see beyond the known dimensions of time and space into the unknown dimension X? It was in the year of 1982 that spacemen first discovered the Great Galactic Barrier. In the past 10 years, rocket travel to the moon and the nearer planets had become commonplace. And then men fixed their sights on a more distant star, the remote planet known as Volta. 5 exploratory ships went out, and none came back, each in turn disappearing mysteriously at the same vanishing point, an invisible wall somewhere in the vast outer reaches that became known as the wrecker of spaceships, the Galactic Reef. And yet, the explorers refused to admit defeat. It was on June the 2nd, 1987, that the rocket Starcloud made ready for takeoff, the 6th to attempt to crack the barrier and win through to Volta.
Now hear this. Condition blue. 1 minute till blast off. Now hear this. Condition blue. 1 minute till blast off.
Bridge to nav control.
Navigation, Collier.
This is Captain Thorson. Ready, Lieutenant?
We're ready, Captain. The course is in the integrator for takeoff at 1200 hours.
All right, stand by for acceleration. Bridge to engine room. Fire up your rocket chambers. Take off at exactly 1200 hours. I'll read you off. 30 seconds. 29. 28. 27. 26.
Condition red.
Hold it. Revoke all orders. Who turned in that alarm?
We've uncovered a stowaway, sir.
Stowaway where?
Hiding at sick bay. Dr. Spitzlin found him.
Have him brought up to the bridge. Engine room. Kill your rockets. Stand by.
Thorson, this is Colonel Harrison at ground control. What's holding you up?
Trouble.
What's the matter with you?
What's the matter with you? There's stowaway aboard.
Stowaway?
Yes, I thought your men were supposed to police this base. What's the matter
All
with
right, Captain, take it easy.
You know what this delay can do to us, don't you? 1 minute late at takeoff can throw us 1,000,000 miles off course. We'll have to reintegrate the whole works.
Well, look, how long do you think it'll take?
Don't bother me for a while. I'm busy here. Stupid idiot. Come in.
Here's your stowaway, sir.
Now, court martial. Charlie.
Can you use a good radio man, Skipper?
Oh, I see you two have met.
Met? The skipper and me made 50 trips to the moon together. Didn't we, Captain?
Charlie, if you wanted to come along, why didn't you volunteer?
I did, Skipper. They turned me down.
What's wrong with you?
Oh, acceleration bends. They said my arteries wouldn't stand another trip.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
But they're wrong, sir. I got one more good trip in me. Now, listen, Captain. You know these green kids don't know the first thing about space radio operation. You put a man like me on, and I'll be getting you bedtime stories from Mars.
Well, you know the regulations as well as I do, Charlie. I can't take you much as I'd like to.
Colonel Harrison will murder me for this.
I'm sorry, Charlie. I have to put you aground. Tell you what, Charlie. I'll ask Harrison to put you on as ground radio contact. It'll seem as if you're right here with us.
He won't do it, sir.
He better. I'll have him busted to corporal for letting you sneak aboard. You'll be better off, Charlie. Paulison.
Yes, sir.
I'm sending a man down from the bridge. Put him aground. Give him time to clear the launching platform.
Yes, sir.
So long, Charlie. Sorry.
Well, good luck, Skipper.
I thought you were going to have him drawn and quartered.
Than anybody else, I would have, Smitty. But Charlie, well, Charlie's kind of special. He's been with me since my first command, when we began the regular run to the moon. If he wanted to come along this time, well, it's only through loyalty to me.
You know, Lewis, I didn't realize it before, but you're almost human.
Navigation. Lieutenant Collier.
Nav control, Collier.
Lieutenant, how badly we fouled up. Can you recalculate the course, or shall I cancel the takeoff?
I've already plotted a new course on the integrator, sir.
Oh, that's quick work. Are you sure?
Positive, sir.
All right, Collier. Putting it in your hands. We'll blast off from your signal.
Lewis, isn't that a lot of responsibility for a young green officer?
Yeah, but if he can't do his job, I'd rather find out now than at the Galactic Barrier. Bridge to engine room. Ready your rockets. Prepare to blast off on navigator's signal. How are we doing, Collier?
Coming on the bearing, sir. 4, 3, 2, 0. We've intersected the course vector.
That's good work, Collier.
Course corrected, sir. Ready to go into atomic overdrive anytime you say.
All right, stand by. Now hear this. Prepare for maximum acceleration. Bridge to engine room. Kill your rockets.
Rockets out.
Fire up number 1 cyclotron.
Number 1 ready.
Fire up number 2.
Number 2 ready.
Engineering, withdraw your dampening rods.
Fission chamber ready. Blast tubes are clear.
Ready. Take it on overdrive. How are we doing, Collier?
On course, sir. She's running hot and true.
Well, my compliments, Lieutenant. This job would have done your father credit. He was the best navigation officer I ever saw.
Thank you, sir.
Start your gyros, put her on robot control. All right, ship is yours, Mr. Collier. If you need me, I'll be in Dr. Smithson's office.
Yes, sir.
You can thank young Collier for that. Chip off the old block.
Oh, you knew his father, huh?
Matter of fact, I knew him very well. First-rate spaceman.
Is he the one who,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he was lost in the Galactic barrier on the second ship we sent out to Volta.
Louis, just what do you think this Galactic barrier is?
Your guess is as good as mine, Doc. All I know is that 5 ships have gone into it, and none of them have come back out.
You think it's an it. How about Mestrovic's theory that it's a time warp in space, but that the ships reach it and slip into another dimension?
I think that's rubbish. My theory is that the Galactic barrier is nothing more than a radioactive layer of some kind.
What makes you say that?
Well, we know that radar signals bounce off it like they were hitting an invisible glass wall. We know it destroys our ships and our crews in some way. There's no other logical explanation.
What makes you think we can get through it?
Because we're ready for it. The others weren't. Entire hull is completely shielded with lead. We can crack through any radioactive cloud ever detected. Besides, we're equipped with some new UHF radio devices that should enable us to maintain radio contact with Earth. Nothing can happen. Absolutely nothing.
Who are you trying to convince, Louis?
Myself, I suppose. Smitty, 5 ships are missing. And men like Prentice and Margetson and young Collier's father. I'm tired of seeing good men fed into that meat chopper.
Then why are we going?
We haven't any choice, Smitty. We're in a race. Kind of race where men and ships are expendable.
Well, at least it won't be boring. I'll have to play physician morale builder and mother substitute for 112 slightly nervous men.
Your morale doesn't sound too good, Doctor.
As morale officer, I can state without fear of contradiction. It's terrible. And something tells me that as we approach that galactic barrier, I'm not going to be alone.
Hello, Earth. Hello, Earth. Captain Thorson of the Starcloud calling Earth. Starcloud to Earthbound. Can you read me?
Hello, Starcloud. Hi, Captain.
Charlie! Well, I see they haven't court-martialed you yet.
No, sir. Thanks to you.
Well, Charlie, it's good to hear you. You can read us the funny papers on Sunday morning.
Right.
How's the signal?
Strong. Clear as a bell.
All right, here's our log report for Colonel Harrison. Ready?
Shoot.
June 2nd, 1987. 4 weeks out from Earth, running true, no radiation, operation normal, still making our approach to the galactic barrier. That's all, Charlie. See you later.
Good luck, Captain. I sure wish I was with you.
How's the morale, Smitty?
Well, the men know we're getting closer to the barrier. They're beginning to show a little tension, Louis.
How's their physical condition? Any sickness?
About half the crew has come down with space blues.
Badly?
Oh, same as usual. Lips and hands with a bluish cast. Eyes sensitive to infrared.
I don't know. When I first started flying these tin cans, nobody ever heard of space blue.
Well, there's a new theory that is caused by the terrific acceleration of these atomic overdrive ships. The change in gravity affects the circulation.
What do you think?
Oh, I think it's psychosomatic. I've noticed that the same men who get space blues under tension on a ship tend to get blue coloration back on Earth when they're upset. I guess it's an occupational disease of space navigators.
You think it's just nerves, then?
I don't know. But young Collier has a bad case. I think it's tension from overwork.
Maybe he needs some vitamins.
Lewis, when will you realize that vitamins are not the panacea for all the troubles of mankind?
Come in. Oh, Lieutenant Collins.
Sir, I understand you've relieved me from duty.
Dr. Smithson says that you aren't looking very well. I'm giving you a rest.
I feel perfectly able to continue, sir.
Your lips are as blue as Minnetonka.
I'd like to remain at my post, Captain.
Don't be foolhardy, Lieutenant.
I'm not being foolhardy, sir. I have a special personal reason for wanting this expedition to reach Volta.
Your father?
Yes, sir.
You think he might still be alive?
I have to find out what happened, sir.
I think I understand. Very well, Collier. Report back to duty. What's the reading, Paulison?
We're getting a +5 radar bounce now. It's coming off the barrier almost as fast as we send it out.
What's the interval?
0.3 of a second. Shortening steadily. At this rate, we'll hit the wall in the next few minutes.
All right, alert the crew. Sound general quarters.
Now hear this. Condition red. We are now approaching the galactic barrier. All hands to stations. All radiation detectors to be fully manned. Full security will prevail until further notice. That is all.
Paulison.
Aye, sir.
Radar bounces up to +6. We better try to make final contact with Earth. Spark's still trying to raise the base?
Yes, sir, but he's not having much luck. There seems to be some interference. That's the radio room now. Yes? You've got him? Cut in the bridge speaker. The captain will take it from here.
Hello. Starcloud to Earthbound. Can you hear me, Earth?
Hello, Skipper. I can barely read you. We're getting heavy static from sunspots.
That's not sunspots. We're right on top of the galactic barrier. Stick with us, Charlie. We're switching to the automatic sender now, so you can track us in.
Okay.
If we crack the barrier and come through still in one piece, I'll try to get back to you on the high-frequency band.
Gotcha, Skipper. Don't worry. I'll be waiting.
So long, Charlie.
So long, Starcloud.
We must be getting awfully close now, Captain. The echo's bouncing back so fast it's almost beating the signal.
When they coincide, hold onto your hat. That's when we run into the wall.
Any second.
Hold on.
Well, here goes nothing.
Here it comes.
Captain?
Why, nothing happened.
We made it. We made it, Captain. No radiation, no time warp, no nothing. Why, the crew's gone crazy, sir.
Let them. They earned it. Say, Doc, can you break out a few bottles of snake bite serum for medicinal purposes?
I sure can, Lewis.
This calls for a celebration. How's your morale now?
Couldn't be better. How's yours?
Condition
Hey, what?
red.
What
Radiation detected. Condition red. Radiation detected.
Good. Holy mackerel. Look at the needle on that indicator.
Paulison.
I see it, Captain. We're picking radiation like crazy.
What's it like?
It's a strong wave.
What kind is it?
I don't know. It's too long for a cosmic ray and too short for UHF.
All right, track it down. Triangulate it. Make it fast. I want a directional fix.
Yes, sir.
Engine room.
Yes, sir.
We're picking up radioactivity. Is it the fission chambers?
No leak, sir.
Check your gauges.
Nothing here, Captain. Must be coming from outside.
Damage control.
Yes, sir.
Is our lead shield leaking radiation?
Haven't found anything yet, sir.
All right, keep at it. Paulison, how you doing?
I've got a fix, Captain.
Well, what is it?
I'll have to recheck my figures.
Well, hurry up.
The angle is correct, but I don't...
Come on, man, for Pete's sake.
It's right, sir.
What's right? Speak up. Where's the radiation coming from?
It's coming from inside this ship.
That's impossible.
No, sir. I've checked it twice.
Well, then, there's only one thing left to do. Paulison, get a Geiger counter. We're going to start combing the ship inch by inch.
Ready, sir.
All right, turn it on now.
Yes, sir.
We'll check the atomic guns first. Cut through the officers' quarters to ordnance. Come on.
Wait a minute, sir.
What is it?
The signal's weaker now.
Let's go back. Hold it. Seems strongest right about here.
It doesn't make sense.
Whose cabin is it?
Lieutenant Collier's.
Collier?
It's probably down in nav control, sir.
Try the door.
It's not locked, sir. It's in here, all right. Listen to that counter. Strongest over here.
Open that wall cabinet.
It's locked.
Smash it. All right, shut off the Geiger counter. What do you make of this, Paulinson?
It looks like some sort of portable transmitter, sir. Must be foreign manufacture. I don't recognize the calibration symbols at all. Never seen anything like it.
Which raises a small question. What is Lieutenant Collier doing with a transmitter in his cabin?
I don't know, sir.
Well, I intend to find out, Paulson. Get down to nav control. Bring Collier up to the bridge. On the double.
Well, hadn't we better find some way to shut this thing off first?
I know a way. Lieutenant Collier, I'm going to ask a few simple questions, and I want a few simple answers.
Yes, sir.
What were you doing with the transmitter in your cabin?
Transmitter, Captain?
You know nothing about it?
No, sir, I don't.
Do you recognize these calibration symbols?
No, sir.
Can you think of how it might have been placed in your cabin without your knowing it?
No, sir. Unless someone came in while I was on duty.
Would that have been possible?
Why, I suppose if someone had a key...
I found your cabin door unlocked.
Well, I meant a key to the wall cabinet.
I didn't say the wall cabinet.
Well, sir, I...
You what, Lieutenant? How could you have known it was in the wall cabinet?
I just assumed.
Lieutenant Collier, I find it hard to believe you would lie. Having known and respected your father and having observed the way you handled your job. However, I intend to get to the root of this thing. May I have your wristwatch, Lieutenant?
Sir?
Your wristwatch.
Here, sir.
Paulison, turn on that Geiger counter.
Yes, sir.
Hold this watch next to it.
Yes, sir.
That's all. Lieutenant, if you hadn't any close contact with that transmitter, how do you explain the radioactivity of this watch?
I don't, sir.
I think you'd better. To whom were you sending those signals?
Condition red! Condition red!
There's your answer, Captain.
What is it, Collier?
Alien spaceship approaching! Alien spaceship approaching!
Sound battle stations. Collier, who's aboard that ship? All right, now talk, man.
Very well, Captain. My mission seems complete.
Your mission? Are you admitting that you're an agent of a foreign power?
I am stating it.
What nation?
No nation, Captain.
What?
I am an agent of the Voltan government.
The what?
The government of the planet of Volta.
You're crazy.
Are you so stupid that you think your people are the only ones who can invade another planet?
What do you mean?
We've had agents operating on Earth since 1945.
I don't believe you.
What do you think happened to those 5 ships, Captain? Where do you suppose we got our information, your language, your culture, family background?
But your appearance, you look...
Like Commander Collier? Is that so surprising, Captain? We had a living model.
I ought to kill you.
That would be very foolish. I would advise you to surrender without delay.
Alien ship now coming in ordnance range.
I'll deal with you later, Collier. Paulison,
sir,
put this man in irons. Take him away.
Don't worry, sir. We'll take good care of him. Carpenter! Robinson!
Gunnery.
Gunnery, Richardson.
What's the range?
10,000 meters. They're closing fast.
Put your guns on radar tracking.
Tracking. Coming on a burn.
Fire. Fire. Richardson, you hear me? Fire. What's the matter down there? Did you hear me? Richardson, answer me.
It's no use to shout, Captain.
Collier.
Yes, Captain.
How'd you get loose? Where's Paulison?
Lieutenant Paulison is dead.
All stations. Lieutenant Collier has escaped. Seize him, man.
Don't waste your breath. Your men can't hear you, Captain.
What?
Those still alive are my men.
You're lying.
No, Captain. Every ship that has ever left Earth was controlled by a Voltan crew.
That's impossible. Those were hand-picked men.
Hand-picked by us.
I don't believe you.
Then why not call for help?
Carpenter, Robinson, Haley, report. Carpenter, Robinson.
You see, Captain, it is quite useless. I would advise you to sit very quietly and do nothing.
It isn't possible. They can't all be dead. Smitty! Dr. Smithson! Smitty, what have they done to you? Oh, those dirty... Don't talk, Smitty.
Closer. Not much time. Lewis. Space blues.
Space blues. What is it, Smitty? What are you trying to tell me?
All men with space blues. Voltans.
Here, let me help you, Smitty.
No, Lewis. Get message back to Earth. Voltan. 5th column. Watch out for space blues.
Smitty. Hello?
Starcloud calling Earthbound.
Please, God, let me get through before it's too late.
Hello, Starcloud to Earthbound. Come in, please. Come in, please.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me, Charlie?
Skipper, is that you?
Are you getting my signal?
It's coming in a little louder now, Skip. Keep sending.
Thank God, Charlie. Now listen to me. Not much time. Get word to Colonel Harrison. Crew mutinied. Most of crew members, Voltan.
What?
Voltan.
Spell that.
V-O-L.
Voltan?
That's right. They're from the planet Volta.
Skipper, are you all right?
Charlie, this is serious. They'll be here any second now. Listen. They have a fifth column on Earth. They're planning to invade you.
You don't mean it.
Of course I mean it. Tell Harrison that they're posing as humans. You can detect them by face blues. You got that? Only Voltons get face blues. Charlie, do you hear me?
Space Blue. I get you.
Step back in, Charlie. I'm depending on you now. Warn everybody.
Captain.
They open the door. Go on, Charlie. Tell Harrison that...
Captain. Captain Thorson. Hello. Hello, Starcloud. Come in.
What's the trouble, Sergeant?
We're just trying to raise the Starcloud, Colonel.
Had any luck?
No, sir. No contact.
No contact?
No, sir.
Nearly an hour since they hit the galactic barrier. I don't understand why they haven't tried to get back a message.
No, sir. Neither do I.
All right. I'll take over for a while.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead, sir.
You'd better go out and get yourself some coffee. Charlie, you look a little blue around the gills.
You have just heard No Contact, an adventure in time, space, and the unknown. Dimension X. Tomorrow, hear Sam Spade. Now, it's Truth or Consequences on NBC.
Like I said, we are our own worst enemy. That was an original story written by George Lefferts, who began his career writing for the New York Observer. He was an executive producer for Time Life, NBC, ABC, and CBS, and was a frequent writer of original scripts and short stories for Dimension X, and of course X-1. With Alfred Hitchcock and William Shatner, he created and wrote Tactic, the very first television program to openly deal with cancer. He also created, produced, and wrote NBC specials for women. One of these programs won an Emmy Award in 1967 and a Golden Globe Award in 1968. He served with honor during wartime in the United States Army Intelligence and Medical Corps. If that wasn't enough, he was also a glider pilot and deep water sailor. George is still with us today and at 100 years old recently completed a full-scale opera. How about that? Are you ready for another story? This one is being brought to us by Gladys Goodies. Good treats for your dog to eat. They use all natural products with no sugar, preservatives, salts, or harmful ingredients. So check out their online store at GladysGoodies.com. That is GladysGoodies.com. And don't forget to use our very own promo code, RONS, to get a 20% discount on all of your purchases. That is RONS. Thank you, Gladys.
Johnny, is this true?
As you know by now, I like to surf the internet to find the strange and unusual. I do this in the name of the podcast, but the truth is, I would do it anyway, even if there was no podcast. What you're about to hear is...
Johnny, is this true?
I will tell you a story and then ask the question, did I make it up or is it true? Your job is to decide. Let's get started.
Johnny, is this true?
This edition of Johnny, Is It True was inspired by my brother. Sure, New Mexicans have a few weird habits, and the land of enchantment certainly has had its share of crazy laws. But what are the strangest things to ever happen in New Mexico? The list of bizarre incidents that have taken place over the years is pretty long. Here are just 4 of them, and all you have to do is figure out if I made it up. Fact 1. In New Mexico, psychologists and psychiatrists testifying in court are required to wear cone-shaped hats, white beards, and wave magic wands in the air. No way, right? This is just stupid. Yes, it is, but it almost happened. In the 1990s, people were losing patience with the endless psychiatric witnesses testifying about a defendant's ability to stand trial. Ex-New Mexico State Senator Duncan Scott added a satirical amendment to a state bill which would have required mental health professionals to don hats and beards that I mentioned. The state unanimously voted in favor of the amendment. However, it was ultimately erased before the House turned this particular state bill into New Mexican law. Had it passed, it definitely would have livened up jury duty. Fact 2. We all have our favorite TV or radio shows. We will go to great lengths to be part of it, and of course we'll do our very best to never miss an episode. But would an entire New Mexican town change its name in honor of a radio show? No, this can't be right. Or can it? It can. The radio game show Truth or Consequences was celebrating its 10th anniversary when host Ralph Edwards pondered whether any U.S. town would be prepared to replace its current name with the name Truth or Consequences. Officials in Hot Springs, New Mexico heard about this and ran a special city election in which residents voted to change their town's name. Edwards then came to town and broadcast a live edition of Truth or Consequences in Truth or Consequences. How about that? Fact 3. AC/DC wrote a song in 1979 titled Highway to Hell. The title and lyrics reflected the arduous nature of touring constantly and life on the road. But did you know that New Mexico had its very own highway to hell? Most people think I made this up, but I say it's true. Is it? It is. In western New Mexico, the devil once had his own road. At least that's what some people believed. In fact, U.S. Route 666 had been dubbed the Devil's Highway or the Highway to Hell. This road runs from Gallup, New Mexico, north through the Navajo Nation and Shiprock, and then up to the Colorado border. It became a U.S. highway in 1926 and acquired its controversial numbering because it was the 6th spur connected to Route 66. The satanic significance of number 666 in Christianity, along with the high rate of fatalities on the New Mexican section of this road in particular, led to its nickname. This is a tough highway to drive, with approximately 400 sharp curves in one 60-mile portion alone. In 1997, Route 666 was determined to be one of the most hazardous roads in the nation. In 2003, Governor Bill Richardson pledged to alter the road's name. An application passed through the New Mexican legislature rapidly. Reason given for the name change referenced the negative impact on the people living in the area. As a result, U.S. Route 666 became Highway 491. Fact 4. Have you ever heard of the outlaw named Blackjack Ketchum? There was a 1956 Western film directed by Earl Bellamy and starring Howard Duff made about him, but few have actually seen it. He was a very bad man who was hanged in Clayton, New Mexico for the crime of train robbery. Wait, train robbery? That can't be right. That isn't even a capital offense. Well, it may not be, but this is very true. Blackjack Ketchum was a cowboy who founded an outlaw group called the High Five Gang. His rap sheet included offenses like murder and robbery. During a train robbery in 1897, his gang stole $60,000 in gold and silver. Given inflation, that haul would equate to well over $1 million today. Ketchum was the only individual in the state to ever be hung for train robbery. However, later the law was deemed unconstitutional, of course, after his death. Although Ketchum was supposed to be hanged, officials in Clayton had never done one before and botched it, decapitating the outlaw. True stuff. Well, those are your strange facts from the Land of Enchantment today, and I hope that you enjoyed it. To my brother Jim, I say thank you for inspiring this. Johnny, is it true? Do you have any unusual or strange stories that you want to share? Send them to Ron's Amazing Stories, and I'll use them, if I can.
The USA in your Chevrolet. America is asking you to call. Drive your Chevrolet through the USA. America's the greatest land of all. On a highway or a road along a levee. Performance is sweeter, nothing can beat her. Life is completer in a Chevy. So make a date today to see the USA and see it in your Chevrolet.
Traveling east, traveling west, wherever you go, Chevy service is best. Southward or north, near place or far, there's a Chevrolet dealer for your Chevrolet car.
So make a date today to see the USA and see it in your Chevrolet.
Hard to believe, but it's true. That was episode number 506, and our friend Chad Campbell told us our story today. I'm so glad he did. Stories like Chad's makes the bus go round and round. If you want to follow the podcast or the blog, head to ronsamazingstories.com. There you will find any of the links I mentioned and how to contact us. Do you want to help the show? The best thing you can do is to tell your friends all about it, and please leave reviews or feedback wherever you listen. Clicking that follow or like button makes us grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.